All right, welcome back. So in this video, we're now going to talk about normal chi control, which is just controlling your chi using your negative mind. As you can see, I didn't write too much, so it shouldn't be too long a video. But now we've technically already been talking about controlling your chi in a normal way or non-transcendental way. So basically, we talked about stress and the placebo effect and those types of psychosomatic responses. And basically, so as established before, as you're going about your day, right, you might have a pattern of thinking where you're constantly producing intentions in a negative way or in a positive way. And due to the silver cord connection, which we spoke about, your chi is going to still be trying to manifest those intentions in your body to a small degree. Not to a large degree, but to a small degree. And a negative intention can really only manifest chi in a negative way, and that's why it basically blocks or dampens your the normal expression of your chi, which comes from your body. Excuse me. So it comes from your body, and your body's trying to manifest chi in a way that increases vitality. So it helps your body to function better, right? But that's a positive frequency, and that's dampened whenever you charge a negative intention or whenever you charge a negative emotion or negative frequency. But it's more than just dampening it. That negative intention will also try to manifest something negative in your body. Again, it doesn't happen too much when it's a normal level of chi control. So that's just you going about your day and thinking negatively in response to things that's happening. And in the negative case, we call it stress. We call the effect of your chi manifesting negatively in your body. We call it the effect of that stress. And when it's positive, I just refer to it as a placebo effect. I don't know what the actual term is. But yeah, so we've technically been talking about normal chi control in that manner, but that's a more indirect way of talking about chi control. I'm actually going to now talk about chi control in a more direct way in this video. And actually, I don't think I read this yet, so it says the negative mind has the ability to control chi more directly. Right? So when I say directly, I mean actually just trying to control chi in a way that requires your conscious mind and intention and things like that, similar to transcendental control, which we'll talk about transcendental chi control in the next video. And so how do you do that? Well, the process is actually quite simple. In fact, when you look up tutorials online about how to control your chi, almost always they're going to give you the normal version of chi control, not the transcendental version, which is the one people are really interested in. Normal chi control, as far as I can tell, doesn't do anything. Actually, I'm going to talk about that in a moment. But so how do you control your chi normally? Well, you would just basically hold the intention, right, to move it. So if you presume that there's some fluid-like ethereal substance in your body or around your body, presume that's true and just hold the intention to move it. And that's pretty much it. That's all you have to do. So the easiest way to do it is in a section of your body where that's kind of closed, like your fist. So if I wanted to do it, I would usually use my fist. So I'd hold my fist and just hold the intention to move energy into my fist and keep holding the intention to move it. So this is, as I said before, this is not done indirectly. I can't focus on the door and then have energy moving into my fist. I have to actually focus on my fist and hold the intention for energy to move there, to that location. Excuse me, and as you keep holding an intention, just keep moving energy in your fist throughout your body, you're gonna feel something moving, right? You're gonna feel something moving, that energy moving, and you're gonna feel it flowing into your fist. And then your fist is going to start, you're going to start being able to feel the pressure in your fist. Now, I've heard people say, that's just kind of your pressure receptors in your fist. And you're feeling it naturally because you're closing your fist. So, of course, you're going to feel pressure building up. And I'm like, no, right? Because, for one, that's just the easiest way to feel it because it builds up here. I can move it in my arm. I could build it up right here. I could build it up right here. And not only that, I can move it around my body. So I remember one time I built it up in my fist, and then I just started. I was just testing this at the time, right? So I started holding intention to move all the energy that built up in my fist. So I built it up for a little while, and then I would just move all of it to my next fist at one time. And at first it was hard to do that, but as I kept doing it, right, and we talked about subconscious volatility because I believe that plays a role here. As I started doing it, it started to get easier. I can move it all to this fist and then all to this fist and then all like back and forth, right? And it was hard at first, but as I kept doing it, it got easier and easier. And then I started doing it different spots in my body. I can move it to my next fist. I can move it to my eye. I can move it in my head. I can move it to my leg. I can move it right here. I just had to do it for a while to build it up, right? Which is just your subconscious charging, right? So you can feel it in areas when you wouldn't normally feel pressure, right? But anyway, yeah, if you do that, you can basically control chi in your body, right? So just hold the intention, you can move it around. It follows all the rules of the subconscious that we spoke about, as in the more you do it, the easier it gets. If you keep doing it, moving it here, moving it here, moving it here, you'll develop subconscious paths, right, that facilitate that type of control, and then you're going to notice it becomes easier, right? Some people say that when I do it, I rarely ever do it, because of what I'm about to talk about in a moment, but I rarely ever do it, but when I have done it, I usually feel the sensation of pressure. Now, some people say they feel a tingly sensation. Sometimes people feel warmth in the area that they're moving their chi to. So those are some symptoms you might feel. Now, to go to this next point, I'll just read it off. So it says it's unclear if normal direct chi control, which is what we were talking about, if normal direct chi control, that's as opposed to indirect chi control, which is me just going about my day, interacting with people, things like that, producing a pattern of intentions that charge energy positively or negatively, and that's going to affect how my chi manifests as well. But that's indirect chi control. I'm not talking about that one. So the direct one is the one we talked about with just moving your chi using intention. So it's unclear if normal direct chi control is actually manifesting anything, right? And so that's when I'm controlling my chi, right? And I laugh a little bit because I see the tutorials online, right? So when I see the chi tutorials, so like, if you just type in how to control your chi, let's say you type it in YouTube, you'll see the tutorials that tell you how to do it exactly this way, which that's just normal chi control. That's not transcendental chi control. And they'll tell you to control your chi in this way, and they'll say like you'll feel some tingly or you'll feel some tingly sensation or warmth, right? And I'm like, okay, now what, right? So they don't really go into detail on what it's actually doing, right? And I don't think that this level of chi control actually does anything, right? It's not clear to me that it's actually doing anything or it's manifesting anything. Like if I move, let's say I move my chi into my arm and then I start holding intention for my arm to heal, I don't really feel like anything's happening, and I don't know if anything's happening. And where I think that comes from, why I think that's the case, is that, so we talked about how because this is coming from your spirit, right? This is coming when your spirit has the ability to move chi, right? That's part of its ability to influence a target. So that's not a physical ability that solely comes from your spirit. And so we talked about how your spirit has senses, right? So your spirit has a vehicle it uses to sense reality, which is your third eye. We talked about how the body massively dampens that ability of your spirit, but still leaves it turned on a little tiny bit, but it keeps it mostly dampened. And so you have a normal level of psychic ability, which, like I said, has a real part and an imaginary part. Or I should say, how did I word it before? Your intuition, basically, right? So your intuition, your psychic abilities manifest in your intuition, right? And your intuition will have a real part, which is coming from your psychic abilities. Even if they're toned down like crazy, your spirit still has the ability to sense certain things in reality. Now there'll be the real part of your intuition. The imaginary part is the part you just make up through your intention, through your beliefs and what you're creating in your mind, and that also expresses itself in the level of intuition, which is, like I said, intuition is mostly just your subconscious expressing belief, right? It's mostly altering your perception to have a type of belief with a very low level of organization. However, it's still there, and so your intuition has a real part and an imaginary part. And that the real part of your intuition, which, like I said, feels a little bit different from your imagination, it takes practice to sort of recognize the difference, but when the real part of your intuition is basically a reflection of your psychic abilities. So that would be a normal type of psychic ability. But by the same token, your spirit's ability to move your chi or influence your chi or use your chi through motion, that's also toned down like crazy because that's also psychic ability, but it's still there a little bit. Now, I think it's slightly less toned down because your spirit has to use chi to move. And that's my theory. That's what I believe, right? So remember what I said before. Chi when you're using your chi, you would use the motion expression of subconscious action, right? So you wouldn't use the expression of emotion or, you wouldn't use the expression of emotion or creativity. Those play a role to some degree. I shouldn't say that. But what I'm just saying is specifically the action of motion, right, would be used. You're using that when you're controlling your chi and doing things with it. Now, you're moving all the time, right? So your body can't dampen this quite as much, I believe, as your intuition, your psychic senses. So, in other words, what I also believe, I didn't mention this yet, is when you move, I think your spirit is actually using chi in your brain, right, to induce a change in your brain, right? And that change manifests the type of motion that you want, right? So when I want to move my arm this way, my spirit will use chi energy to manifest a certain change at a very microscopic level in my brain. And my body charges my subconscious to influence my spirit so that I can use chi in this very specific way without really thinking about it. Right? And so that's ultimately how, and when, when you're a baby, right, and you're moving around more and more, you develop your brain develops pathways to facilitate that expression of subconscious energy, so it gets easier. But another way of saying that is your ground state will start to develop these subconscious paths, right, that make it easier for me to control my body in this way, using my intention or using my chi. And that ultimately is where you get the first cause effect. So we talked about how science still hasn't actually figured out how the brain can switch from a potential state to an active state, right? In other words, they don't know how we're able to move. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, physics has never been able to explain first cause phenomena. Motion is a first cause phenomena. The moment something moves in a way that doesn't follow physics, you get the sense that it's alive, right? Because it's animated, right? If I start doing this, there's no reason for me to do that in terms of the laws of physics, right? It's the first, like I said, it's the first thing babies. I read one day, or I think it was in class. I got it from something in school. They were saying, I was aware, right, of them saying that one of the first things babies learn is the difference between animate and inanimate objects. Because it's the most obvious difference, right? Animate objects will move in a way you just cannot explain physical laws. It's a first cause phenomena. And like I said, science has no idea how the brain switches from in a potential state where it can do all types of things to an active state where it's actually doing all types of things, right? Because you can't explain it in physical laws. And where that comes from is actually your spirit, right? So your spirit influences your brain on a very microscopic level to move in a certain way. By the way, that's also why when you charge at a certain frequency, we haven't talked about too much about the connection between the organizational pattern and the manifestation of chi. And there is a connection, just like there's a connection to frequency. However, when you charge your subconscious at a certain frequency and your subconscious starts to organize in a particular way related to that frequency, your chi also manifests in a certain way related to that frequency. And so that's why when you charge up at a certain frequency, let's say confidence, you feel the need to move in a certain way. Right, you feel the need to move in ways that match the organizational pattern associated, or the subconscious form associated with confidence. But your chi is also trying to manifest in a way that is associated with that subconscious form and with that frequency, and it just manifests in the way it impacts the nerve cells in your brain to move, which is, like I said, it does at a super microscopic level. So that's my theory on how all of that works. However, I feel that the body has like a filter, right? Kind of like a filter on the expression of chi energy, because chi, like I said before, it can be very, very dangerous. Like, so I know how I know that chi is seen as like this thing that's has to do with health. It's very healthy. It's very good for you, and it's good to exercise and do Tai Chi and. And to be fair, that's actually traditional Tai Chi. I don't know if what they're talking about is the same as what I'm talking about. I'm presuming it is. I've never had like an official sort of Chi teacher, or I don't look up tutorials on that, like in depth on Tai Chi and things like that. However, I believe that what they're talking about is still pretty much similar to what I'm talking about, but they're talking about more or less the normal form of it, right? And the normal form doesn't do much. But they still will sort of present it as this thing that helps your health and is more beneficial. However, right, if you get into transcendental chi control, which we're going to talk about in the next video, that is very, very, very dangerous, right? So you have to be very careful when playing around with that, right? And your body dampens your ability to manifest chi, because if it didn't do that, your negative intentions would just destroy your body, right? Because your chi is constantly expressing itself inside your body, and your chi is constantly expressing itself inside your body, and if it's expressing itself according to a negative intention, it's just going to destroy your body. And that we see that effect when we see the effect of stress. Stress is the result of constantly holding negative intentions and charging your subconscious that way. And what that does is it causes your chi, even at the normal weak level that it's dampened to, it'll still cause it to start trying to destroy your body. So the body, it's good that the body dampens it. However, I don't think it could dampen it too much, because you're always moving, right? If it dampened it too much, you wouldn't be able to move. And so what the body does is it kind of filters it, right? It allows a certain type of intention to pass, and other types of intentions it blocks, right? Or I should say other types of manifestations of your chi, right? And so this ability to move your chi, I think, is just a holdover. I think it's one of the blocked intentions of your chi. Related to your chi. So when you're moving your chi around, your body couldn't turn it off all the way, but it allows you just enough to do it inconsequentially. And so when you move your chi through your body, it's not really doing anything. That's just your body's way of it's almost like a lightning rod, right? A lightning rod would actually attract lightning to it to sort of absorb the lightning, so it doesn't actually damage anything, the lightning itself. I kind of think that's what's happening here, right? Your body, it kind of confines control of your chi to a usage that's inconsequential. And this is one of them. By the way, I would be moving my chi in this normal way a little bit when I'm doing anything, right? So when I'm moving around, when I'm going about my day, some of my intention is still going to be expressing my chi in this normal, inconsequential way where it's just moving around, but I don't really notice it, right? I won't really notice it until I actually focus on it directly and say, move here, and try to feel it, you know what I mean? But this, I largely think, is just an inconsequential sort of holdover. It's a kind of a place that your body commands your chi to express itself, where it can't do anything, right? And so that's what this is. What's funny is that a lot of tutorials will talk about this chi control, but this is the inconsequential version. This doesn't do anything. The one that matters is the transcendental one. That's the one that's very dangerous. That's the one that's actually supernatural. That's the one that has a lot of rules to it, right? So, like I keep saying, you want to use it legally. And what that means is you want to use it in a way that is not against the word of God, right? Because there are rules with this, just like there are rules with anything, right? So I can engage in sex in a way that is illegal, right? Or that is sinful, right? But I have the choice, right? So I can do it in a sinful way or non-sinful way, in a way that's aligned with the word of God, which is in marriage and with someone you love. Now, I can also do it illegally, through pornography, prostitution, things like that. But chi is the same way. So you can use it legally, which is this normal way. But if you're doing it transcendentally, then it can be very easy to do it illegally, against the word of God, and then you're just sinning. Then you're going to lose spiritual energy, or you get psychically possessed, all that. So you have to be very, very careful with transcendental chi control. On top of the fact that if your attention's too negative, it's just going to damage your body. Which actually, I'll talk about that more in the next video. I kind of already went over it now, but I'll revisit that again in the next video. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's it for normal chi control. Video lasted a little bit longer than I expected because I went on a tangent. But in the next video, we're going to talk about transcendental chi control, which I think we kind of already went over it. But I'll go over it more officially in the next video. But yeah, that's it for now, though. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.